Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Expat Hoops. I'm Andy Haberman, your host. Today, we welcome Amanze Egekeze, who played for Belmont in college, graduated in 2018, and joins us from Finland, where he's currently playing in the Korisliiga. This is his second season in Finland, with prior stops in Japan, Greece, France, and the Netherlands. In addition to his professional career, he became a member of the Nigerian National team, played several windows with them. Welcome to the pod, Amanze.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're excited to sit down with you and talk with you about your career overseas. But before you had to be in college at Belmont, highly successful college career, there had to have been a certain point where you said, all right, I'm going to try to make this dream a reality and play professionally, whether that's domestically or internationally. What did that look like for you in terms of whether you're finding an agent and trying to actually talk to coaches? And when did you start really realizing that, like, all right, it's not just a dream, but I can actually go execute this? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so I would say around my like the end of my junior season is when I started. It always been the back of my mind, but it started to become more of a reality. I had my assistant coaches asking me what my intentions were. After college, like what I want to keep playing. I always knew I wanted to, but obviously you don't really know what to compare it to. You don't have experience with this, so you don't know the process as well. But had a really strong senior season, and throughout that year, that's when I started getting a lot more interest from different agents reaching out throughout the year, keeping in touch. And so it wasn't as difficult as maybe I thought it would be. You know what I'm saying? The agents were reaching out to me naturally, and kind of just sifting through, almost like recruiting all over again, where you just going with what you think would be the best fit, and going from there, meeting different people, talking to people throughout the year, and coming to a decision. And that was pretty much when I knew it could be a reality for me.
Well, before we actually get into where you go in Japan as your first stop, are you with the same agent that you started out with?
I'm not. No. Yeah. Nothing crazy, but before I became a pro, I would have thought like, I'd rather just sign with one agent and stay with them the whole time. But talk to enough players who have played and who've played overseas and been through the whole process, you realize that it's very extremely common to go through 2, 3, even 4 agents sometimes, for different reasons. Not all of them are bad. Sometimes it's just about fit, like I said. But yeah, not with the same guy anymore.
And that's one of the reasons why I asked you, because you have an interesting start to your career, and that's knowing what we know now in starting this podcast and being through it a few years now, is like you said, there's a variety of different reasons, and some of it is actually like geographical, which some agents specialize in certain regions of the world. And
Yep.
that's actually a really interesting component of your career, is you don't often see people start in Asia. Like, it's usually kind of something that, like, in our experience, you see people that like might have been in Europe and that they've transitioned to Asia because the money's better.
Yep.
So I actually that's one of the things I really find interesting about your career is you start in Japan. Take us through what that first season was like for you, not only getting to go to Japan, a really unique, beautiful place to go to, but you also basically spent time with 3 different clubs there, which is a little bit unique too.
Yeah, so definitely is not the way most rookies start their career. I would say I had a very unique opportunity. After college, I got introduced through a former high school teammate to a trainer who was training in Dallas at the time. And his name was Fess Irvin, real kind of old school guy. Love that guy. But he wanted me to come down and work with him after my college season was over. And so I spent a couple months in Dallas working with him in the summertime. He happened to get the assistant coaching job of Yokohama, which was my first team I played for in Japan. And so he was telling the head coach about him. The head coach was an American guy as well. So he had a good relationship with him. He had coached with him in other places in the world before, I think maybe Qatar or something. And, spoke highly of me. And it's not likely that teams will take a chance on a rookie, especially in a place in like Japan where they are paying guys a lot of money. So it's definitely the most money I've made in a single season, right off the bat, unique opportunity. And yeah, it was a year of lots of up and downs. Started off kind of pretty strong, but it's a definitely a league with a lot more experienced guys in the tail end of their career. And I was also a 6'8", 215. I was playing the four in college most of my career, but I was more of a wing in Asia. And really, Americans out there are usually like big fours and fives. Japan, they like sumo wrestling, you know what I'm saying? So it's very similar in the post when you're playing too. They let a lot of physicality go. It's just big 280, 300-pound dudes like banging in the post. And so I wasn't a very good fit in that league. I found out pretty quick, but I had other strengths. I was quicker than most guys, so I made the most of that. I could shoot it a little bit. But I just wasn't ready to like contribute and be as consistent as they needed me to be. So I got released from that first club, I would say maybe 2 or 3 months into the season. Wouldn't say I was playing bad. It just wasn't up to the level, and our team was really struggling. It was one of the bottom teams in the league. Um, I think I might have actually been second for some parts of the season. I was leading the team in scoring even, but that's just kind of how it works. When the team's losing, they usually will try to make a change with the Americans first. And so it was definitely a learning experience, that first stop. Great guys, great city. And so I went home for maybe like a month or so. This is like end of November. So once the new year hit, I got picked up by, how in the NBA they have the Eastern Conference, Western Conference. In the B1 league, they have, I think it's still the same way, where they have the East, West, and Central Conference. So they got like maybe 6 or 8 teams in each league. So the number 1 seed on the West side, Okinawa, they had picked me up and wanted me to be the third American, basically, on a 1-month contract. And they had told me, at least my agent at the time had told me that, if you play well, they might even sign you for the rest of the season. One of their guys had went down with an injury, so they needed a guy to come in. So I'm like, cool. Went there for a month. Okinawa, still to this day, is one of my favorite places I've ever played. Beautiful island. If it's like they have like a military base out there. So it doesn't really feel, it's like a mixture of America and Japan, like real chill, laid back people. Everybody's super cool. So I played there for a month, ended up playing maybe 4 or 5 games because I was the third American. So I wasn't suiting up for every game, but in the games I did play, I played pretty well. We won most of those games and had some of my best games, honestly, with them. But they just decided that they weren't going to extend me all of a sudden for the rest of the season, which I understood. I was only there for a month. I signed a 1-month contract. So it was tough to leave those guys, though, because I had gotten pretty close to them. And especially after my last couple of games, I had hopes that I would be able to finish the season with them. But ironically enough, the last team that I played against when I was with Okinawa was against Niigata. And that's the team that ended up signing me for the rest of the season after my games against them as a third American also. So ended up flying straight from Okinawa to there and finished the season there. And they were the number 1 seed on the Central Division. So technically, right, I ended up being a part of 2 championship teams, that won their respective side of the conference. And so that was a cool experience to be a part of that, and made some great friends. All my teammates, the American teammates, and even the Japanese teammates, I'm still pretty close to some of them today. So lots of laughs. It was basketball wise, it was a tough year because of the inconsistency in playing, not playing. But I learned a lot that year about, professionalism. I learned a lot about, you know, just being a pro, coming to work every day, staying after, doing things, and just learning some tricks about how to navigate a different basketball game. Everything was different. The officiating was different. The ball was different. The 3-point line was a little farther back. So everything was new. And definitely learned a lot that year for sure.
That's actually one of the things that when you were talking, I couldn't help but think that, it's good that everything off the court was going well. But one of the things that really struck me about your answer that's kind of unusual is to face like that much in your first year, where you're essentially released from two teams and you do catch on with a third. I don't know if this is just you now several years into it where you're looking back on it, or if you actually really did adapt that well to it in the moment, but you really did kind of seem to understand that, like, okay, this is the business. I think even your first stop, you said, yeah, I wasn't quite up to, like, you played well, but you weren't quite up to what they needed. And just
Yeah.
kind of like your perspective on it, if it's now, or as you're looking back on it as a multi-year pro, or was that something that even in your first year where you were just like, you know what, all right, fine, I'm just going to go on to the next. What was it for you in that moment?
I think it's interesting you put it that way because there is a little bit of both. Like um, that first time getting released, that was not easy. Like um, you can imagine your whole basketball life, you're used to being anybody who makes it to that level, right? You're used to being one of, if not the guy on your team from middle school to high school to college, even an all conference guy, one of the better guys on my team. So I'm used to being, um, you don't think about, well, am I going to make the team, or are they going to get rid of me? That thought doesn't cross your mind. You think that when you sign that contract, it's like, oh, okay, I'm here for the year. Um, but yeah, it's hard not to take it, not to kind of have that moment of self-doubt a little bit of like, am I really like as good as I think? Am I good? Am I not ready for this? Or so the first time was tough. And the second time I knew it was more so just like, especially after seeing a few teams in the league and seeing how the league was, and understanding pretty quickly that I was kind of an odd fit in the league and I was making the most of it. Um, I understood that one a little bit more. So I gained perspective. And then obviously now, like being so far removed from it, I see it totally differently. You know what I'm saying? I can look back and be like, yeah, I had to go through this. It was a learning experience. The whole thing was a learning experience. And um, today I'm definitely grateful for it, for sure.
One of the things also that might be a little bit weird is to like to ask this question is like in your first season where you spend it with three different clubs in Japan, a lot of people, myself included, want to go to Japan in the worst way. And so like this is off the court, this kind of question. And you said, you alluded to it with Okinawa, that it's a beautiful place. It's one of your favorite places. So during the midst of this, where you're kind of going, where you're trying to find your way in your first season, you're away from your family, presumably for like one of the first times, several time zones away. What was it like in terms of trying to acclimate and see things while you're there in the midst of trying to find yourself professionally as well?
Yeah. In terms of the family, it was tough because even being in Europe is tough, right? Being like 6, 7, 8 hours, depending on where you're at in Europe, ahead of US time. But my first experience in Japan was 12, 13, 14 hours ahead of time. So it was weird to get adjusted to. Like the only times I could really interact with my family and friends from home was right when I got up in the morning, like maybe right before practice, for that little window of maybe 2, 3, 4 hours. And then your whole day, like the whole middle part of your day, nothing. Like I'm scrolling, even on social media, right? You're scrolling through Twitter, whatever, it's dead. Like there's not a lot of new stuff popping up because it's the dead period. You know what I'm saying? It's like late night, everyone's asleep at home. So you're kind of just waiting till late night so you can socialize with people again. So that was tough. That was definitely tough. But I would say as a rookie, I did not take advantage. I say this every time, like I didn't take advantage enough of. It's like you don't appreciate where you don't realize like how rare of an opportunity you're in until you're out of it and you've experienced other places. And I'm like, man, I was really living in like Tokyo. Like I should have did more. I should have took more pictures. I should have, just seen more things. And I did see a lot of things there, but if I could go back, I would have done way more because you don't realize how rare of an opportunity it is to be on that side of the world that some people would literally kill for an opportunity to see that kind of thing. So definitely, even to this day, one of the coolest places that I've lived in. But if I could go back, I would have done even more. I would have seen more. So, yeah.
It's one of the things though that like we were talking about, like you're still trying to find your way professionally. So there's a little bit of fairness for you there. But it also is something that will, guide you well, presumably the rest of your career, that like when you're in a certain place that you're able to enjoy it, knowing that you may never be able to go back there or, enjoy the opportunity while you're there. But you go to a pretty nice place in your second season. And I'm going to say pretty nice is an understatement here. Greece, as we were talking about off the pod, is a season where you had a lot of fun off the court, but you wind up going to Greece your second year. Take us through what the decision was like to get from going from Japan to Greece and how that actually came to be and what your experience there in that season was like.
Yeah, well, I knew towards the end of my season in Japan that I needed to get to Europe, right? That's what everyone's telling you. Your agents, they're all telling you, you got to get to Europe. European basketball is more respected. It's this and that. So that was my thinking there. The Greece job, and from an agent perspective, it was probably a home run for him, right? A guy who was playing, up and down spotty in Japan in a market that's not as respected maybe in Europe. So coming to Europe, I had to prove myself all over again. I'm a second year guy, but I'm basically in some ways being treated like a rookie because it's my first time playing in that part of the world. So I ended up going to PAOK in the first division in Greece, which is one of the most. It's one of the few very historic franchises in Greece. If you're aware of that, you got like Panathinaikos, Olympiacos, AEK, PAOK, and our rival, of course, Aris. So signed there, and it was. First of all, the living obviously was amazing. Warm weather, living basically right by the water. Thessaloniki was the city I was in. It's just a really beautiful city, historic, great food, everything you could think of was great. And the fans were amazing. The fans were amazing there. I found out pretty quickly how passionate they can be. They're extremely passionate. A lot of times it's a good thing, and sometimes it's not a great thing. If you're not playing well, if you're losing games, it can be a very, very high pressure situation, and especially with the club with so much history. We're competing internationally in Champions League as well, so there was a lot that came with it, and I feel like basketball-wise, in terms you asked about the decision to go there, it seemed like one of those things, again, similar to Japan, where you have a chance in Japan to sign for X amount of money, which at the time, a lot of rookies don't make that kind of money in 5-6 years playing. So it was hard to turn the Japan thing down. And then you coming straight from there to Greece, where you have a chance to play in Champions League right away as a second-year guy. It's hard to turn that down. It's opportunity. It's a great opportunity. In hindsight, I can probably say I don't think I was ready, to be honest. I don't think I was ready to play at that level at that time. Especially it being my first year playing in Europe too. So there was a lot more I needed to learn in that situation. But I think there was a lot of other things as well that came with it that were not in my control that I was not prepared for either. So the decision was just, well, it's a great opportunity. And specifically the coach was interested in me, talked to him, had good conversations, and so I took it. So that was kind of that.
In our house, when we use a VPN, we are sure to use NordVPN. NordVPN secures up to 6 devices and is compatible with Windows, Mac OS, Linux, Android, iOS, and even your Wi-Fi router. Plus, it's no risk to your wallet. Head over to their website for pricing or contact customer support 24/7. And remember, your purchase is always safe with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Click the link in the video description to use our code and make sure you're secure with NordVPN.
We have merch. Head over to the Expat Hoop store where you'll find t-shirts, hoodies, masks, coffee mugs, pint glasses, and more.
It's one of many ways you can show support for the podcast, so head over there and pick up some merch. That link below is in the video description, or you can head over to our website, expathoops.com, and click merch. We offer a couple of different Expat Hoops logos, and we have men's, women's, and kids sizes, so you can get something for everyone.
Once again, I think you kind of hit on something that I want to kind of explore a little bit more. We were talking about, like, you played at a really good mid-major school, Belmont, and you've got one season in professionally already. Maybe the fit wasn't the best, but still, you're 1 year professional at this point in time. And I think it's interesting that you say that at this point in time, looking back on it, that you don't think you were ready for that level at that time. What was it like? I think that would be a little bit weird hearing, a fan of like college basketball and even professional basketball here asking, like, well, what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, it's a totally different game, and I think sometimes maybe in our like, I don't know if it's arrogance, but we think we know basketball a certain way, right, in the States, and you've grown up playing a certain way your whole life, and then you go to a different country, and nobody cares where you went to college, nobody cares where you played, nobody cares what you did in college, no one cares. It's like, who are you? Like, show us who you are. You know what I'm saying? So even just, I would say more mentally than even physically. It was more of a mental challenge to testing your mental toughness. The rules are different. The rules are different. What they call a travel is different than what you're used to. I'm realizing a lot of the moves I used in the States I can't use here anymore because they call it travel. The way you're being subbed in and out the game is different. You play maybe the first 5 minutes, you come out and you don't come in again until maybe halfway through the second quarter. So if you don't get into a good rhythm those first 5 minutes, coach might just think, oh, he's just not ready to play, and he might not put you in again. So everything is heightened. It's more about efficiency when you're out there. You just have to be ready right away to make a huge impact. And I think the other thing that it's hard to prepare for was stuff that was out of your control in terms of, the club at the time had some money issues. Most teams in Greece do. And so it's your first time where, your contract says you're supposed to get paid on the end of this month. That day comes and goes. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks come by and you haven't gotten paid yet. And now it's like, okay, am I just working for free, or like, what are we doing here? So those are all mental things. And then you're still expected to go. They still expect you to, go out and put your career literally on the line for them. But it's what comes with it. And when it's your first time going through that in real time, you don't know how to take it. And then the other thing too is that I had to learn was, in college, when you're one of the guys on the team, you're there for 4 years, it's okay you can have a bad game here and there. Like, who cares, right? It happens. You have a bad game, you just get up and do it again the next day. You have a bad game someplace in Europe, Greece especially, I found out pretty quick. You have a bad 2-3 games in a row, you got fans sending you like hate messages. First time in my life I ever got hate messages like, yo, get away from our team, this and that. Like, they're really, really passionate about their team. Like, and you got people saying, oh, you don't deserve to be paid. You know what I mean? Just crazy things that it's like at the end of the day, it is a job, it is basketball. And for someone else to tell you that you don't deserve to be paid or you don't deserve to like make money for what you're doing because you had a bad game it's crazy. But that's what it is. And when it's your first time going through all that, it can be overwhelming. And there were a lot of moments where you start to question like your own basketball ability. So most people's career paths ease them into that. You know, most people don't start their career in Japan where they get cut a few times and then now you get thrown into this situation in another cutthroat league, another cutthroat situation where you're expected to be a finished product right away. And you're not a finished product and you're just learning things still. And so it was challenging for sure. And but again, looking back in hindsight, it's something that I can say I'm proud I went through. And I still had good moments. I had big moments when I was there, but it definitely tests your mental toughness and you start to question like, do I really love this? You know, because you can't keep playing if you don't really love it. So
yeah, and this is something I think off the pod you said you kind of alluded to drama with the club, contract issues, which I think you kind of alluded to there, where it's like you're not getting paid on time and budget cuts. What were some of the other things that were going on in the background this season as well?
yeah, so you know, there was, well, first of all, the coach that brought me there got fired like maybe 2 months into the season. Expectations were really high for, obviously it's a club with a lot of history, so there's a lot of pressure on him as well. So I thought he was a good guy, great coach, and but we just weren't performing well, so they made a change. And I won't get so specific, but basically I was told that I had been hearing rumors for the last month at this point that they're looking to replace me or something, right? So, you know, 22-year-old me is having to deal with all this, right? But I'm still doing my job. I'm going to work every day. I'm trying to do my best. I have good moments, like I said, good games here and there, but not like consistent. And so my agent at the time is telling me, well, they want to sign you again to maybe a 2-week tryout while they're transitioning, finding a new coach, because the coach, he wants to make sure like the players that are still there are the players he wants, right? Sounds like it should make sense, but you basically asking me to forego my contract and basically go with this new thing. So he convinced me, you know, again, 22-year-old me convinced me that I should basically go for that. I didn't have much power because I'm a rookie, right? So a rookie in Europe. So we do that, only to find out that they ended up hiring our assistant coach who was already there with us the whole time. So it's no like there's nothing else he has to see. He's seen me for the last 2.5 months. So now he's saying they want to do it again, another 2-week thing. And at this point, I'm like, is there something going on that you guys aren't telling me? Because when I got here, there's a 1-month trial period in my contract, which is normal. And it says once you get past this month period, your contract is now like basically fully guaranteed. Like everything is guaranteed like normal. So that date came and went, like it's been gone. So I'm thinking, okay, like they haven't said anything. I'm good. Only for my agent to come back and tell me, well, and I had played well in the preseason. Like I thought I was playing well. You know, we were doing well, we were winning games. And so he tells me now in late October, like they asked me at the end of that month for an extension on the trial period, and I accepted it without telling you because I didn't want you to be thinking about it while you're playing. And I'm like, like strike one, low-key strike two in one, you know what I'm saying? Because that's kind of something I should know, regardless of, understand why he did it, but that's something I have to know. I have to know that. And I'm basically playing here non-guaranteed. I'm basically playing uninsured. I'm playing with no guarantees in my contract and risking injury. Anything could happen in these last 2 months, and I've just been in the blind about everything. So, there's a whole lot to that. I feel like there was a lot of information that wasn't being told to me at the time about the true nature of my contract. So ended up maybe around Christmas time, they finally ended up, he brought me in, we had a conversation and decided, to part ways. Mind you, at this point, I hadn't been paid for the last 2 months I've been there. So I'm 2 months behind pay. I'm being professional. I'm doing my job. Like whatever they think about me as a player, I'm still showing up every day. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And so they said, by New Year's or something like that, we'll have your buyout. You get like a 2 or 3 month, whatever buyout in your contract. Boom. That day comes and goes. And I kind of knew I wasn't gonna, I knew all the stuff that was going on with the club. I knew that I wasn't gonna see that money anytime soon, at least. But to make a long story short, I ended up eventually having to take them to court to get the rest of my money. I hired a sports lawyer guy. He reached out to me, actually. That's how it worked out. And very thankful for him because he was able to put pressure on them. We ended up taking it to bat, which is So we took it to bat and the case was clear. They owed me money. And it's funny how their phones don't work when I'm texting them for months about what's going on. But then as soon as bat puts pressure on them, now the GM is texting me, calling me, saying like, hey, can we work something out? Blah, blah, But that's unfortunately, that's a normal thing. It's a normal thing in Europe that a lot of players go through in silence. And a lot of them don't go back for their money, which my advice to any player who's in that situation, it is worth it because these teams are betting on, out of 8 or so guys they sign throughout the year, they're betting that only 1 or 2 are going to come back for their money and that they can just get away with doing that. I think it's wrong.
Yeah, there's a thing, I can't remember if it's probably in law school or something, but it was about, I can't remember if it was Ford or what car company it was, if it was Chevy. I don't remember which one it was. Basically, I think it was in the 70s or 80s that one of their cars was defective. They knew it, and they had people doing the math of if we do the recall, it'll be more expensive than if we just get like sued, basically. Or like the payouts. And that's kind of like one of the things that like I know that when I've heard similar stories like this before is like they're making a calculated decision of nobody's going to challenge us, or very few people are going to challenge us, and the people that challenge us will pay them and make them go away. But it's a numbers game.
It's a numbers game for sure.
Thanks to SeatGeek for sponsoring Expat Hoops. We recently became a brand ambassador for them. SeatGeek is a ticket app that takes the confusion out of buying tickets. They offer a 0 to 10 score on each ticket to know if you're getting a good or a bad deal. Green means good, red means bad. You get the idea. It's a really easy way to get tickets to events. Plus, our viewers get $20 off their first ticket purchase with the Expat Hoops code. Click the link in the description to download the app. Remember the code Expat Hoops, EXPATHOOPS, all one word, to save yourself $20 off your first ticket purchase with SeatGeek. So transitioning into what will be your third season, we're going to bypass at least a little bit. At this point in time, you're kind of coming onto the national team with Nigeria, kind of coming onto their radar, and you're going to go into some windows with them. But your third season, you get to go to France. It's a season that is kind of interesting, as we talked a little bit off the pod about. It's a team that no longer exists. That even though that they had most of their issues by the time you were gone, kind of you could start seeing some of the seeds being sown at that point in time. But take us through your season in France. It's now we're actually a little bit, I wouldn't say post-COVID, but post-COVID outbreak. So this is in the fall of 2020.
Yeah. So after Greece, really a month or two later, the whole world shut down. So all the leagues stopped. So this is definitely after those tough months. I'm in France, and even how that job came about, I in between Greece and France, I had got a new agent. Obviously, after how that situation went down, I wanted to change. But the irony is that the France job actually came from my last agent, technically, because he had came back and said, that he was talking to this team for me, and that was a whole nother thing. But I go there. I'd heard that second division France was a good league. It's a good league if you to kind of get yourself going. It's a respected second league as well. One of the more respected second leagues, I would say, in Europe. And so more of an opportunity, good opportunity there, especially after not having a great numbers year, kind of getting released again. I really needed to be somewhere that I could finish the whole season and show what I could do. And this opportunity came, and in a time where everybody was struggling, not uncertain about, am I going to get a job this year? So I took it. I took it without knowing much about it other than the league. I didn't know much about the team. And I'll never forget, I'm in a workout maybe a few weeks later, and it's guys from all over that I train with in the summertime. And this guy that I had just met the week before, he was like, asked me where I was playing, and I told him where. He was like, oh, he's like, oh, you playing for that coach? Oh yeah, that you guys are gonna be running. He's like, he just said, y'all gonna be doing this. I'm like, oh man, like how bad is it? He's like, oh no, like it's bad. Yeah, So that was my first and I learned pretty quickly, like if you're looking for a team, it's best you talk to players first, man, because players are always gonna keep it real. They're always gonna tell you like the real with a situation. And so I'm like, okay, well, I've practiced hard in my life before. It's whatever. At least it's a good opportunity. Coach seems to have somewhat of a vision for me, so whatever. So I get there, and mind you, I've played the 4 position my whole career. My whole career in college, I was a pick and pop 4-man. Statistically, literally, like even especially my senior season, like one of the best pick and pop situation guys in the country at the time. So like that's what I did, right? And I get there, and all of a sudden he wants me to play more of a wing, more of the 3, which I've always felt like it's within my capabilities, but it's not necessarily what I do primarily. But I thought, okay, maybe it's a good chance to expand my game a little bit. But it was tough. It was a tough transition. I'm not playing kind of my natural position, and once again, it was like ups and downs. I would say there was definitely more progress this time. I was from the previous 2 years. I'd say getting a little better in consistency, but it was just physically the toughest year of basketball of my life in terms of just being beaten into the ground every day by this coach, man. It was unbelievable, like how much he had us doing. And we all felt it, but it was one of those situations where I felt like nobody had the power to like do anything to change it. Even the GM, I felt like couldn't say anything to him. So yeah, I'm there, and I got a chance to the national team. I'll never forget. I woke up one day to a call. I almost didn't even pick up, but it was a random number, and asking like, "Hey, is this Amanze?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like who's this?" And he's like, "Oh, this is Mike Brown for with assistant coach for the Golden State Warriors." I'm like, "Oh, whoa, like what's up?" Like, and she said he's coaching with the Nigerian national team now, and that he's was putting together a list of guys to play in the AfroBasket qualifiers, and he's heard of me. He wants me to, if I'd be interested to play, and I said yes. So I go and do that. It was in Rwanda. Great experience. That's my first introduction to a lot of the guys on the team, and great guys, man. Some of the most fun I've had with those guys playing. So yeah, I came back. I played again in 2 months later. There were 2 national team periods that year. So I played again. So the first one was in November, came back, played in February. That was in Tunisia. And first game of that window, I sprained my MCL, landed on the guy's foot, and pretty much done for the season. So that ended my season in France, essentially. And so yeah, I'm not to be too long-winded with that, but even at that situation, I ended up leaving and going home. But they're supposed to, in France, if you get hurt, you're supposed to have like, and there's something that the government helps like pay for your injury time. And so my team, the GM, had assured me like, you have nothing to worry about. I'll never forget the last thing he told me is like, oh, we're family, you know, all this and that. We got you. Sure enough, I leave and I'm asked. I don't get paid what I was supposed to get paid at the end of the month, and I'm asking him like, "What's up?" And he's like, "MIA, won't answer the phone. He's reading my messages, not responding." So that was a whole nother situation. I had to get my agent involved, pressure them. We had to work through the French agent basically to figure out what was going on, and I never heard from him again. So I won't say a bitter ending, and I like the guys I played with there too, great guys, but just another lesson that, you know, this is a business, man, and it's what have you done for me lately? And if you're not able to perform for them, a lot of these guys, man, they don't actually really care about you like that. So, and I'm a very like personal, like relationship type guy. When I'm with the team, I really try to, you know, bond with the people I'm with. But I had to kind of grow out of that a little bit, you know, from these experiences I've had. So, yeah,
It's really unusual. I've never heard such a way to end in France the way that you had. Is like usually it's like you said, it's through the government. It's one of the two places I think of that's very secure usually. Like Spain is another one. France is another one where they usually have things secured, like you said, through the government. And so it's a very odd way for that to have ended. And it's, you know, also interesting given the fact that they were one of the 4 clubs that wound up merging and after you left, of course, but that is kind of an unusual ending, especially for a place like France.
yeah, it was, and it was. Look, there was obviously there was more to it, right? Like they were trying to say basically that, well, that only is the case if you come back, and they wanted me to see their doctors and get their things, but first of all, I have to get a third opinion from my doc. My dad's a doctor, you know what I'm saying? It's like I have to get a third opinion from him anyway. And second of all, this coach was going to pressure me to play hurt. He was going to pressure me to. I see the way we practice every day. Me coming off a knee injury, I'm not going to risk that. And thirdly, which is the most ironic part, was, you know, the day I moved out, I handed the keys to, I didn't know at the time, but it ended up being literally the guy to replace me. They had a replacement already and moved him into my apartment. So I'm like, if it was really just about me coming back, then where am I going to stay? Like, you guys gave my apartment away to somebody else. You know what I mean? So there was some chess, I feel like, being played where they were trying to play dumb and act like I just up and left the team and didn't plan to come back, where it wasn't necessarily like that. It was like you guys had already decided, like, all right,
Yeah,
we're
they
gonna
already
bring someone.
telegraphed their next move.
Yeah. So, and you guys didn't want to pay me. So that's really why you're doing this. So, you know, it's like I said, it's just some of the stuff you got to deal with sometimes overseas, and you got to look out for yourself sometimes, for sure.
Well, the good news is, as we talked off the pod, Netherlands is next, and that's the turning point for you, for your career. Kind of starts laying the foundation for a little bit more consistency, a little bit more normalcy. Take us through what that season was like. I know that off the pod, you and I talked about, you know, quality club, but what was your experience there back in 2022?
Great experience in Groningen, the city. The club was called Donar. Had a great time there, man. Had some really fun times with those guys. Ended up getting there and reuniting with my point guard that I actually played with in college, Austin Luke. I got to reunite with him there. It was crazy how that even came about. because he had played for the coach the year before with a different team, and the club ended up signing the coach, and the coach brought him along, and then he was able to get me there as well. So it was cool how that worked out, and it was I love that year because it was my first year of playing and staying in a place start to finish with no hiccups, no injuries, no getting cut from a team, release, no real drama. Everything was mostly just basketball. Like anything that was any stresses I had was just normal basketball stuff. And that's how I liked it. And I was very comfortable off the court. I had a great group of guys. It was the first for the second team, because in Greece we had 6 Americans as well. But this team, we also had 6 Americans. So, and even all the Dutch guys, we were all really close, like close. It felt like college again. It really did feel like college again in some ways. We had so much fun together. And it was also great to just get back to winning at a high rate again. Like we won a lot of games, one of the top 3 teams in that league. We played internationally in FIBA Europe Cup as well. So you're playing good competition, you're traveling, you're doing all these things. And it was my first time in my career winning something significant. We won the Dutch Cup that year, and then even made it all the way to the first B-Next finals that they ever had, because it was the inaugural year where they joined the Belgian teams and the Dutch teams in the playoffs. And so making it to the finals there, had a great season, man. Great season. And I think like I said, any ups and downs, it was more just basketball related, trying to find, gain confidence again, gain my rhythm. And it wasn't even statistically like my best season or anything, but it was just nice to to just be a part of like winning basketball again and playing the right way. And so I was really thankful for that situation. And I missed those guys a lot, missed that city. And yeah, it was a good time.
Well, it would lead you to where you are now. This is now the second season that you've played in Finland, but the same team each year. Your first season was really good. You personally averaged 13.5 points, 6.5 rebounds, assists, and a steal, basically, won the Finnish Cup. And you're now in year 2. Take us through kind of what your experience in Finland has been like with your current club.
Yeah, so this has been an amazing experience here with Kataja, in probably the smallest city out of all the cities I've played in, probably the smallest with the least amount to do. And in some ways, it's been the most fun I've had. I remember before I signed here, I really felt like I said, the Netherlands was good to finally be in one place, start to finish. And now I really felt like I need to go somewhere where I can really show everything I can do. I had figured some things out, especially late, like in the playoffs. I was playing really well in the Netherlands. And so I'd figured something out there, and I wanted to build on that momentum. And this coach here, Coach Pete, he really allowed me to kind of expand my game again and kind of get back to how I was playing in college a little bit, like my senior season, where putting me in great spots to be successful on the court, getting the same looks I'm accustomed to getting. And, at that point, it's year 5 for me, year 6 now, but my first season was year 5. And I'm starting to develop my own routine now. I've got my own, I know how to work now. I know how to get my extra reps in. I know how to rest. I know how to do these things. So I just felt like the confidence was getting a lot better. And I think it showed. It showed in the way I played. It showed in the way that I was able to perform night in and night out. And we played in FIBA Europe Cup as well again. In the qualifiers last year, didn't make it. This year we were able to make it into the group stage, and that was a great experience. Last year, Kataja has always been one of those top 4 or 5 teams in the Finnish league, but last year's team, I don't know if you could say in some ways we even exceeded people's expectations. We were able to finish 3rd in the league. We won we won the Finnish Cup, actually. So I won the cup 2 years in a row, back to back in different places. So that was a great feeling. We won the bronze medal game as well. So another season, start to finish, no hiccups really, except in the playoffs. 2 games into the semifinals, I actually broke my shooting hand. But it was just it was a short 8-week recovery. The season was over at that point, and so it didn't affect me that much. But great experience, man. And this year, wasn't sure if I was going to come back. I think I was thinking I'd probably go somewhere else, but it just worked out where, and honestly, truthfully speaking, like I wasn't necessarily pleased with the offers I was getting in the summer. So I ended up making another change with my agent, but coach called me back. He's like, "Hey, you still available?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm still here." And it became more realistic that it was a possibility I could come back. And I'm thankful I did. He made me the captain of the team, which is also a huge honor. It's not something that happens a lot, I don't think, in where you go to a new country and the American is the captain. I think in this club, it's only happened like 2, 3, maybe 4 times. So it meant a lot to me, like, the fact that they liked me that much as a person, first off, and they saw the value that I brought and wanted me to be a part of the team again. So it's been a great year. We're in the playoffs right now. Just finished the quarterfinals. We're right back in the semifinals, right back where we were last year, with a chance to hopefully go to the finals this year. So we're super excited. Been another successful year, and yeah, the weather's unfortunately not getting much warmer. It's still pretty bipolar, but we'll hope for a little bit warmer weather soon.
So one of the things that I think is just kind of interesting is, all right, so Belmont, you're there for 4 years. And we talked about this, I can't remember if it was on the pod or off, but basically a lot of times with, being overseas basketball, you're going place to place to place. And even with that, you were saying that you weren't even sure if you would be back this year. So especially with a small place that you're in Finland, and, that you weren't sure that you were going to coming back into year 2, what were things like where you kind of greeted by people, essentially that were, fans, and, it's a small place to be, and what was it like coming back, and what was the reception like?
It was amazing, man. I'm not gonna lie. Even leaving last year, I felt like, man, am I gonna miss this little city, like, with nothing to do and cold and riding my bike everywhere to practice and food and everything, like, and they really made this place feel special for me. Obviously, having success helps. Like, we had a successful season, and so that winning always helps the experience wherever you're at. But they really welcomed me with open arms. The fans were super engaged. Everyone in the whole Kataja community was super supportive of not just the team, but me specifically. Like, I think a lot of people enjoyed having me there. So when I found out it was a possibility to come back, I was really excited. I didn't want to tell too many people yet because I wanted to make sure it was official. But when they announced it, man, the love I received was amazing. It really made me feel like, wow, like I didn't even realize that they liked me that much. I knew they liked me, but and then just to look back on what we've just talked about, like my whole career, just kind of being, let go here, let go there, searching for that feeling I had in college again, where the camaraderie and the family type atmosphere. And then to here we are now, where I can finally say I found it. And not a lot of people in their careers get to find a situation like this where they get to come back to the same place, or they're wanted. It's nice to be wanted, man. And I think that was the main thing here, was a lot of great messages from people on social media, and just the love they showed was really, really special. So
Thank you, Amanze, for taking us through your career overseas, sharing your experiences on and off the court. We have some expat extras we'd like to get into you with in just a moment. Care to stick around?
absolutely, let's do it.
Hello, and thanks for watching. Be sure to give the video a like, and you can watch more videos over here. You can also click subscribe over here so you're notified when we have new content here on Expat Hoops.